Hey, Lifecoast leaders, Pastor Mike here with a leadership recap of the meeting we had a couple of weeks ago where we talked about some amazing things going on at Lifecoast Church and some of our leadership and ministry methods. And so if you weren't there, I'm here just to give you the finer bullet points to keep you up to speed. And if you were there and maybe you're sleeping or not paying attention, or maybe you just want a refresher on what we talked about, you hang in there with us too. This is just a short video to keep us all on the same page. Over the last year, I've been traveling all over the country doing my assessment retreats for church planners, and I get to connect with so many cool pastors of so many great churches. Some of them our size, some of them 10 times bigger, some of them brand new, and some of them 50, 60 years old. And we sit and have coffee and talk about ministry, some of the great things going on and some of the hard things going on. But I have to tell you one thing that's been very encouraging to me, because we all know some days ministry can be really hard. And we start to think, is it something we're doing? What's encouraging is to hear these pastors explain their trouble spots or their pain points that really are so similar to the same exact things we've been facing in ministry too. So I know it sounds, oh, that's a strange encouragement, but really we're all in this together and God's doing some amazing things. But truly, we're not alone in the things we're facing. Now, over the last 6 and 12 months, one of the conversations have been centered around people who are serving or who have been serving over the last few years who aren't serving anymore. The big question is, why? And so they started asking those questions with people they don't see around the table, and for whatever reason they stepped away from serving or drifted, and maybe they stopped showing up, and they were asking these questions. And sure, some people stopped serving because they moved away, or they got a new job and there was no time. Maybe a new season of life, they were having a baby or something like that, and they didn't have the capacity to serve anymore. But one interesting thing popped up. More and more people started becoming more transparent of why they drifted away. And they started to answer the question like this: I just felt like I was being needed to serve so that the ministry could grow. And quite frankly, I felt at times like I was being used. Whoa. People are feeling used when they're serving at a church. This should never happen, but unfortunately, it is happening. And we've felt the pain of people who aren't serving anymore. They used to serve right alongside with us maybe a year ago or 5 years ago, and we're never really told what happened. But what would be really hard for us to believe is that somebody at Lifecoast who was serving with us all of a sudden felt used, felt like we just needed them to grow our thing. Well, how does this happen? Well, it kind of goes like this, great leaders at times. I'm going to use my blackboard here. We're going old school with the chalk. See, great leaders, they get a big vision from God about what God wants to do in their community and how God wants to use their church. And so God downloads this great big vision into their hearts. And so God's got this vision. Here's God and here's that eyeball, right? That's God, and he's got a vision for something he wants to do in the community. Okay, and for us, it's Palm Coast and the Flagler community. God's got this great big vision. And then the lead pastor has to take that vision and express it as passionately, as energetically as he can to the rest of the leaders and to the church. Why? Because we want to get that done. We want to make sure that we help God accomplish his vision. So what does the leader do? He comes up, he stands up, and he talks to his leaders, and he's encouraging, hey everyone, God wants to do this through our church. Will you join us? Get involved in something bigger than your lives, something bigger than your daily routine, because God wants to do something for eternity. That sounds compelling, doesn't it? I mean, who wouldn't want to jump on board then and say, let's do that for Jesus? And they do, and people start running towards the vision, and they start serving. These are stick people, by the way. They aren't really you, but they start jumping in and serving, and all the while, ministry starts to grow. And in time, you start to add to those ministries. The pastor or maybe the leader see more things we can do. And we're not just doing family, we're not doing family services, we're doing kids church. Let's do some other things. Let's do some outreach and let's do some other things to make sure we get the kingdom to grow. So guess what? We need more people. If we're going to do more things for Jesus, we need more people. You can feel the tension, right? Some of you guys have said the same thing. We need more people to get the vision accomplished. So what do? We start to improve all of our methods. We improve our on-ramping methods to make sure people can start serving quicker and understand their gifts so they can serve better, and all those are good things. And then we do big invites and serve days, which are all great, but that brings more people in and more people to lead and more people to get things done. All that is great, and on top of all that, we have ministry growth. With more people, we have growth. It all sounds great. You want to know what the real result is? We get some ministry done, sure, but after decades of studies with pastors, and even in our own experience here at Lifecoast, what we can find is a revolving door starts to happen. And people now start disappearing. And we're not exactly sure why up front, but we just know our eyes are on the ministry. We've got to get that vision accomplished, so let's get more people. We don't always take the time to find out why, and sometimes people don't tell us why, but they start dropping out through this revolving door. I mean, why would they drop out? We're giving them a place to serve Jesus and to maximize their potential and to utilize their gifts so that we can grow the kingdom. Why would they want to leave? Well, there's two reasons that people leave. First, we just don't have enough time with all these people and growing ministry to show them the next steps in their personal lives. It's always about the ministry, always about the vision, but really people are individuals. And by and large, because of who we are, we're still concerned about us. And we get that mentality, well, what's in it for me? How am I growing? How am I learning? How am I getting better in my faith and in my life? And sometimes we just don't have time to take care of them in that way. So we say, go get in a small group or go get a mentor, and we're just hoping that all happens. The second reason people leave is when we use the tactics above, when we say our eye is on the vision, and the vision is greater than you and greater than your life. We need you to get this done. When we use that tactic, we're sending a bold message to people right down below in their soul. We're sending a bold message that we're not interested in them as much as we are in the vision and the kingdom. So in the end, people start to feel used by the church. And you can just ask them. They're going to tell you, many will tell you, well, you know what? They're just using people to grow the ministry. Now I want to make a bold statement. Jesus never brought us his people to Lifecoast Church or to your ministry to use them for anything, not even the kingdom. Jesus brings us people to grow them, to equip them, to spend time with them. We don't want to use people to grow the ministry. We want to use the ministry to grow people. And that's one of our values, is to grow. But it's not to grow the church. It's to grow the saints. It's to grow the people in their faith and how they do serve and how they do life in the world around them. We have always been about growing people at Lifecoast Church. You can take a look around, maybe even in your own life. We've been about investing in people and pouring into people all 12 years of our ministry. But my experience with other churches is this. If your system of ministry, meaning all that we're doing at Lifecoast Church, isn't centered around growing people, well, number one, that just means we're just doing ministry. And number two, you're leaving their growth in their Christian walk just up for chance. You're hoping they're going to be growing instead of designing a system around their growth. This is how most churches are designed for growth, by looking at the big vision of the kingdom and developing ministry and pulling people in one by one to get that vision accomplished. There's a mathematical term that describes that. It's called addition. And here's how it works. And we have a church, and we see this vision, we see the ministries we have, and we just keep asking you, please invite more people to church. Please invite somebody else next Sunday. Please invite somebody to your serve team to help you serve. Please invite and add one more. Let's add one more. Let's add one more. And they're going to serve a little, and then they'll invite some more friends, and then repeat, and then repeat. But here's the truth. While we keep working in addition, adding people, you know what mathematical equation Satan works in? Division. That's right. Satan loves to divide churches. He loves to divide ministries and relationships and small groups. He's always dividing, and we keep adding. So addition is not our best tool for fighting the enemy. So what do we need to change? We need to develop a culture at Lifecoast Church of multiplication. A culture of multiplication. See, a culture is when everyone is thinking and behaving and moving in the same direction and expecting others to do the same thing. It's unification. Everybody doing the same thing, thinking the same way, and behaving in ministry the same way. So developing a culture of growth is not when a few people are investing in the growth of others. It's when everyone is investing in the growth of others. It's a culture where growing people are growing people, period. And how do we grow people? By using the ministry as the tool. We ought to be seeing all ministry events and times and planning and even setup and breakdown as people growing opportunities, not times to get things done. So here's the problem. We are all such servant-hearted people, and we're great at getting things done. We've proved that over 12 years. What will it take to make the switch from getting things done to growing people? I'm gonna call that a conversion. I'm gonna ask you today to make a conversion. The conversion goes like this. We want to stop being a ministry of doers, and we want to become people who are developers. I hope you can see that. Doers into developers. Kind of like when you were lost, but once you were lost, but now you're found. Once you were a doer for Jesus, and now you want to become a developer for Jesus, right? So how do we develop this culture of developers, of multipliers? So how do we develop a culture of developers, of multipliers? Well, simply this, by creating an easy track for everyone to aspire to, for everyone to see easy steps where they can discover their calling and be equipped to live it out every single day using ministry as the tool. So this is called leadership pipeline. This is called leadership pipeline or leadership track, if you've heard it that way. It's been around in the business world for just about ever. I'm going to pop up something here from McDonald's in just a second. But how many have a friend who probably started working at McDonald's when you were just out of high school or in high school, and you went off to college and they stayed working at McDonald's? But here's what I remember going home from college after a few years, and somebody I knew at high school was working at McDonald's after 2 or 3 years. I saw them become manager, assistant manager, and then manager, and things started happening in their life. Not too long ago, I came across this tool that McDonald's uses that I knew nothing about, and nobody else does too, unless you work at McDonald's. It's called the leadership pipeline of McDonald's. I'm going to pop it up right here. I want you to check it out real quick. When you come into McDonald's, you're sat down with a manager or somebody, a supervisor, and you are shown a process or a pipeline for growth. It's growth in your life, sure, and it's growth as your worker at McDonald's. But you can see right from square one, from that very first meeting, you can be developed. You can keep growing and growing and growing as a person and in your position at McDonald's. And all the way, and you see right up to the top, it says, it doesn't stop here. You can become a franchise owner. That's a pipeline. And for those who stuck it out at McDonald's, they're franchise owners. Some of them are owning 3, 4, 5 McDonald's, and they started at flipping burgers. Now, I would have thought, hey, they've been at McDonald's 10 years. I don't know if I want to be that person. And all the while, they're getting ready to own a franchise thinking, yeah, you spent a lot of money on college. Some of the best businesses out there, some of the best corporations out there utilize a leadership pipeline, and they become phenomenal places to work. Starbucks, Google, they all have these. Here's what we know. People are concerned about themselves. They want to come work for you, but they're still concerned about, are they going to grow? Are they going to develop? Are they going to progress, not just in the workplace, but as a person? And if they can't, they're only going to last a certain amount of time, and then they'll be gone through the revolving door. So what we've begun working on here at Lifecoast Church over the last 2 months as a staff is our leadership pipeline. And it looks much similar to McDonald's, but obviously the words are changed. And we're going to pop that up for you here. And here's what I want you to get out of this, really, because it's going to be confusing. And our next equip, we're going to walk through it so you'll help understand it better. I want to give you a snapshot now. Right now, we have at Lifecoast Church people that just attend. Okay, we know who they are. They're attenders. They might come every week, but more often than not, the American average is about 2.5 times a month that somebody goes to church. Those are your attenders. That's never where we want people to stay. If they stay there, that's fine, but we want to do all we can to design ministry to pull them deeper in their relationship with Christ. So you'll see at each one of these levels, there's an I am statement. If you're an attender, it says, I do this, okay? Now, when you join a serve team, you become a serve team member, and now there's different expectations and different responsibilities. Now, in the last 12 years, we do our best to try to pour into people, but generally people can serve week in, week out, or on rotation, and nothing really changes. Their heart is in it, but now we want to start thinking about how do we grow them as people, and grow them in their competencies and skills for ministry. So when you're a member, okay, it says I serve on a team, and a lot of it is about the team, and a lot of it is about values of Lifecoast Church. What we want to do now is we want to not just let them sit there, but we want to understand how we can help them grow. So in each of these positions beyond the attender, there's going to be at least 5 competencies that we're going to sit down with them and say, while you're here serving, we would love to help you grow in these areas of your life and ministry. And then simply ask them, would you be interested in that? Because we're never going to push anyone. And some people aren't ready, different things going on in their life. But when they're ready, that we want them to know we're here willing to help to develop them and grow them. Okay? So when you become a member, a leader will sit down with that new member and say, these are the things we do with this ministry. These are the expectations of this ministry. And here's what you can expect from us. We want to help you grow in your walk. Okay? So for those members who are mastering those competencies and think they really got that down and they're serving, they're doing all the tasks of ministry, of course, we will ask them, their leader will ask them, would you like to become a leader over 2 or 3 people, new members who come on board, and help them grow in their walk and help them develop their competencies of life and ministry? And we invite them on, and we want to show them how. Some will say, well, I'm not ready for that. And others like, you know what, I've always thought about doing what you do. I'd love to do what you do with 2 or 3 other people, not 20 other people. 2 or 3 others, because this is about caring for people and helping them grow, okay? Or it's not about herding cats and shepherding flocks. It's really about doing one-on-one or one-on-2 or 3, okay? So this leader will then invite them into a relationship, and then we'll start showing them how to become a leader. Because once you become a leader, all of a sudden, you've got a whole different set of responsibilities over 2 or 3 people, whereas before you were over no one. And you've got some competencies that we would love you to grow in. And here's why. When you're a member, we're going to help you learn time management. Why is that important? Because we love our members to understand when they're serving and how to show up on time. And if they're always late to our ministry, we understand that maybe they're late in their life a lot too, and we want to help them grow in that area. It's a whole nother thing when you're a leader helping somebody else with their time management. And because now you got a little tension and conflict, we want to help grow them in that competency to be able to help others in their time management and understanding values and understanding other things in ministry. So when you become a leader, whole new set of competencies. But all leaders have a coach. Okay, so when you become a leader and you've grown 2, 3, 4 people, you can now become a coach over 2 or 3 leaders and show them how you went from a member to a leader, and start to invite them into a relationship, much like you had with those members. Invite them into a relationship to grow them in their skill sets, grow them in their competencies for life and for ministry. And after you become a coach, you have an opportunity to become a director, who are over coaches and who are over the vision and the huddle teams and all that of each ministry. Okay? And then from there, God might grow you over the next 2, 3, 5, 10, whatever years, when he starts putting big vision on your heart. And we always want to speak into that and say, is God showing you something bigger for your life? Is God calling you into a deeper commitment, a deeper calling for ministry? For maybe it's becoming a pastor, maybe it's becoming a different leader in a different organization, mission, something like that, or maybe it's planting a church. We want you to know that that's why we're here, to keep doors open so that if God calls you and invites you into that, we're going to come up alongside you and show you the competencies, the skill sets, and help you grow to get that done, to answer that call. Okay? Now, I know this is a snapshot, but what you need to understand is we've been doing some of this for 12 years. We've been pouring into people on different levels for 12 years. What we haven't done is created a system that's across the board, united across the board with every ministry thinking this way. Every ministry having members, leaders, coaches in the same way with the same competencies, so that we all understand the approach and we can all talk to each other. If you're in the CR ministry, the kids church ministry, you can talk in the same terms, okay? And the people might be different, but the system and the methods of growing those people are the same, so we can really help each other out a lot. Another thing you need to know real quick is that you can serve in many different ministries, 2 or 3 different ministries at Lifecoast. It doesn't mean that you always have to go up the pipeline. If you're leading in one area and encounter youth ministry, it doesn't mean you can't be in the worship ministry. You can still be in the worship ministry, but you're not probably going to aspire to leadership in that ministry, because we understand you only have so much capacity with life going on around you and kids and everything else, work. So you certainly can serve in multiple ministries, but we're going to encourage you to grow in your leadership competencies in one that God is really calling you to, okay? The other thing you need to know is not everybody's going to want to grow up that pipeline because of many different things going on in their life, or maybe they're just being resistant to God's call, or they're just not ready. That's okay. We still have those sit-down conversations, and on occasion we continue to talk to them and let them know, hey, are you thinking that now is the time to grow? Maybe you'd like to become a leader or something like that. We always want to leave it open, but we never push. We encourage, but we don't drag people along. That's God's job. God always does the calling, the nudging, and sometimes the dragging. We just want to be there. I hope you guys understand this and are hard on this. We're not necessarily inserting a new program into Lifecoast Church. We're shifting in how we do our ministry all together to grow people. And we're gonna make sure everybody gets equipped. We're gonna make sure everybody feels comfortable about how to go about doing this. We're taking our time. This is gonna happen overnight. This is gonna take as much time as we need to make sure everybody's on board, feeling comfortable, so we can start to see people grow in their lives and in their gift sets, and maybe even in their leadership. Lifecoast, we love you so much. We're so thankful for how hard you guys serve the Lord in many different capacities, some of you guys. If anybody asks you what this is all about, here's what we want you to remember in your mind and maybe come out in your speech, is that we want to make sure we don't use people to grow ministry. At Lifecoast Church, we want to use ministry to grow people, because it's all about the people. We want to love them into a deeper relationship with Jesus Christ. Thanks for hanging with me, and I promise the next one won't be so long, but this is such a major shift in how we do some things. I wanted to make sure you get it. Don't forget, in April, we have our Equip coming up, and we're going to walk through the pipeline, okay? We're going to walk through conversations to have with some of your members and how to go about doing the invite. We're going to walk through the competencies and what areas of their life we're going to help them grow in. And here's the cool thing, Pastor Jeff and me me, Pastor Mike, and Ryan, we've been creating the exercises for you guys to be able to hand them so that they can just go home and do some learning and come back and you guys can collaborate on that. You're not going to be left on your own, not in those conversations and not even the tools. We have those for you too. So I hope you feel at ease about that. Make sure you get there in May 5th. Just remembered it's Cinco de Mayo is our Equip training seminar, and we want to get all of you guys in a room and start to practice our development, start to practice our conversations and some of our competency training. So guys, love you. Have an awesome day.